Hi guys. So I've had a couple of requests, people asking about asking for me to make a video on the importance of going no contact and how some strategies on how to do that. So if you're dealing with a manipulator, they could be a narcissist, a sociopath, a psychopath, or it could be an active addict. Active addicts, whether they're sex addicts, porn addicts, alcoholic, drug addicts, often they act quite sociopathic or quite narcissistic. And really, I don't know if you're really ever going to be able to totally tell whether somebody has, just pure NPD or whether they're actually an addict, unless they are able to get rid of the drugs, the alcohol, the porn, and the sex addiction, or get those into remission. And then, some people still have very highly narcissistic traits or tendencies, even when those things are gone. When their active addictions are like in remission and they've gotten some treatment for them. Other times what you'll find out is, people get sober from their drug and alcohol addiction, they treat their sex addiction, they address their porn addiction, they're in remission, they're in recovery, they're healing, they're getting well, and then their heart opens up and they are no longer a, serial cheater, alcoholic, addict, and they don't, and they start doing the recovery work, the 12-step recovery work, and maybe going to therapy and doing these things, and then they start healing. Other times you'll see people get sober, clean, they put maybe their sex addiction, they're addressing it, they're going to SLAA or, another program for sort of sex and porn addiction. They're treating it, and then even then, once they get, those things in remission, they're still super narcissistic. So, it's really hard to tell for sure, but if you're dealing with one of these highly manipulative personalities, these people that are using gaslighting, brainwashing, lying, cheating, infidelity, they have a double life, they're addicted to pornography, they're having affairs, they're doing all of this stuff, and you may not have proof of all of it, but you probably have some evidence in the way that they've been treating you. If they're giving you the silent treatment, shunning, acting superior, stonewalling, manipulative conversation, word salad communication, they're projecting everything on you, they're using deflection, they have a low level of emotional maturity, and they're very, very self-centered. And key here is they have no empathy or a very, very low level of empathy for you, for your children, for their children, for the affair partner's children, if there is any. And even though they're going to fake empathy, remember, these people are masters, they're Academy Award winning actors. So they're going to fake empathy, especially with the new source of supply and that person's children, if there are any, because they're love bombing. They're trying to secure that, bond. They're trying to get that person bonded to them so that they can manipulate that person, right? And again, whether they're doing this consciously or not, who the heck knows? But bottom line is, when you're getting out of these relationships, it is very important that you go no contact. And the reason why you need to go no contact is because you need to start healing. You have been in a relationship that's basically a cult of one, where you have literally been brainwashed. You have been, you're trauma bonded. You have been lied to, manipulated. All sorts of high level of sort of, I call it mind fuckery, has happened. And you have been manipulated and gaslighted, and your brain is confused and foggy. You don't even know the difference between what's real and what's fantasy, because this person has manipulated you on such a level that you question your own sanity. You question your own judgment. You don't even know, what's true and what's false, because they have been so incredibly duplicitous and manipulative. So you've got to break that, and you have to go no contact, or at least I highly recommend it, because once you go no contact and you get that cult leader, sociopath, narcissist, manipulator, addict out of your life, you do not get triggered by them, then you can start to heal, and you're going to start getting a lot of perspective on what really happened to you. You're going to start seeing where this person was horribly manipulative, where they were lying the whole time, where they had a double life. You're going to start getting clarity, and you're going to start knowing the truth. that this person is pathological, they're disordered, their thinking is distorted, and they are very dangerous for you and for anyone else that they've come into contact with. If you talk to their ex-partners, you're going to find the same story over and over and over again, or slight variation of it. They are going to do the same thing with their next partner and the next after that. This is the cycle that they're going to repeat throughout their lives unless they get some help. And it's very hard for narcissists to get help because they think they're perfect and they don't need to change. They don't think that there's anything wrong with lying and gaslighting and cheating and stealing and distorting reality. They just think it's totally fine to psychologically and emotionally abuse other people. They just probably don't even see it as abuse. Like, they don't even get that there's a problem with it, right? So why would they ever go to therapy? Why would they ever seek treatment if they're not the problem? You're the problem. The other 7 billion people on the planet are the problem, right? So really important that you go no contact. And once you do, you will start getting a lot of clarity on what actually happened to you in the context of that relationship, and where you had perhaps your part was having porous boundaries and not enough self-love and self-care, that you tolerated abuse. And I'm not at all victim blaming, because usually people who are in these relationships are either codependent or they came from a place of trauma, right? So they may have sacrificed all sorts of things for, economic stability, especially if they had, in my case, I had horrible poverty shame, and I was so, scared about money because I was like a single mom. And so, I tolerated a lot for somebody who is financially stable, even though they were psychologically and emotionally abusing me. But I wasn't really aware of that until I got out. It really takes some time of healing and going no contact, and you start recognizing, the truth. And I started, I discovered, there was an affair and a secret, porn and sex addiction. And so once you start discovering this stuff, you don't need to focus on the narcissist or the sociopath. What you need to do is focus on you and your healing and your growth and your wellness. And you're going to go through different stages. The first stage is you're going to research the heck out of personality disorders or highly toxic relationships. But then it's really important that you start doing your healing. And so for me, that's involved a lot of reading a lot of books on how to heal from hidden abuse, how to heal from toxic relationships. I've started going to Codependence Anonymous, working those steps. I got a sponsor. She's been an amazing mentor, helping me see where my codependence, and my codependence manifests in this idea of instead of seeing people for who they are, I see a fantasy. I see them for I fall in love with potential, right? I see them for what they, what I think they could be rather than what they are. I ignore the fact that their actions don't match their words. I let my boundaries keep getting pushed and pushed and pushed because, I grew up in a boundaryless family. I had my boundaries egregiously stomped on as a child. So it was normal for me to, because of the abuse I came from, something felt comfortable being with another abuser, even though the abuser I was with was very not physically or even verbally abusive. It was all psychological and emotional in the form of control, gaslighting, lying, manipulation, double life, having sex outside the marriage, and that wasn't our agreement, infidelity, porn, problem, all these different things. But I didn't know, I just didn't even identify that stuff as abuse because this person was super polite to me on the surface, and then very passive aggressive and controlling behind the scenes, but in a way that it made it look like they weren't doing that. It's so confusing, and it's such a high level of manipulation, especially if you're dealing with one that has a very high IQ, which was the case. And then, of course, they have a very low EQ, as we've discussed before, low emotional intelligence. But again, super important that you go no contact. And if it's hard for you, and it may be because you may be in this sick, toxic cycle where you keep going back to them, or they may have control of the finances, so you feel trapped, or you may have kids with them. But one thing that helped me is I downloaded this app called Habitable, and I started counting my days. And eventually, and that was like, I congratulated myself for each day that I went no contact with this person, because I kept trying to go to this person for empathy. And if you're going to a narcissist for empathy, you're going to the dry well for water. You're going to the hardware store for a loaf of bread. They don't have empathy, so they cannot provide it to you. There's all sorts of other people in this world and like in my life that have incredible empathy that I know to go to. So why go to the dry well for water, right? So, you will start to heal. So habitful, congratulate yourself on each day that you go no contact, and then surround yourself. Find a community. You can go to, there are meetup groups, there are therapeutic groups for victims of domestic violence or psychological abuse. There's even meetup groups for victims of narcissistic abuse. There's 12-step programs. You can go to Al-Anon or CODA, where you need to, where it's very beneficial to find community and, find some women, or if you're a man, find some men, find some people in your inner circle that you feel that you can trust and that who have perhaps been through something similar. You may notice that normal people in your life, even if they love you, they care for you, they will not or often do not understand what you went through, especially if it was a psychological and emotional, which is hidden abuse. And it's very hard for people to understand the trauma that people endure when they're in these relationships and how traumatic it is and how long it takes to heal. But if you find other victims of other narcissistic abuse survivors, you will immediately understand each other because you both went through a very similar thing. There are also Facebook groups you can get on. I would be careful about which ones you get on. Some of them are just like trash talking. That's not very useful, but some of them are very good in terms of offering like coaching and some really great suggestions for you to heal and get well and recover. It's going to take a long time. It's a process. I really highly recommend going to CODA, and whether you accept the label as a codependent or not, you can go to CODA and get some great tools for learning how to value yourself, how to set clear, healthy boundaries, what's going to work for you, what's not going to work for you. So again, I really think going no contact is key. There's a lot of YouTube videos that you can play when you're in the early days of it, where you can reinforce the importance to you of going no contact and like why you're doing it. You're doing it so you can heal, so you can get away from an abuser, so you can stop going to the dry well for water, so you can stop going to somebody for empathy who has none. They're not gonna heal anything. They're not capable. They are disordered, right? So start going no contact, and then also go no contact with their flying monkeys, because you are going to get triggered. Their flying monkeys are very triggering. So I would say, of course, cut them off from social media, email, text, all of it. Obviously, if you have children with them, or if you're going through divorce, it's very difficult to go completely no contact, but you can employ some gray rock strategies where you just become boring as a rock. I'm going to make some videos on gray rock and how to do that, especially like co-parenting with a narcissist. You can install an app on your phone for pickups and drop-offs, so that you don't actually have to communicate directly with the narcissist, because they're always going to be hustling, manipulating, and abusing you. So yeah, that's it for this video. I'll make some more on the importance of going no contact and some suggestions on how to do it in a really effective, helpful way. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thanks. Bye.